Thank you for joining this session of the Trine Family Web Series. As we allow folks to make their way in to the presentation from the waiting room, just a quick reminder that tonight's session is being recorded and will be available for viewing on our YouTube channel starting tomorrow. Tonight's session will include a live Q&A with our panelists, but at any point throughout tonight's session, please feel free to utilize the question and answer feature located at the bottom of your screen. Please don't share any personal information. You may submit questions anonymously, and we will address as many questions as we can tonight, both live with our panelists and on the back end with staff who will be helping to answer questions at any point throughout tonight's session. Again, please feel free to utilize that Q&A feature at any point throughout tonight's session. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, for wherever you may be joining this episode of the Trine Family Web Series. What I'm dubbing our season finale, this is our fourth and final Trine Family Web Series session for the winter quarter 2023. My name is Dan Perez. I am the Assistant Director for the Office of Parent and Family Programs, and I have the wonderful pleasure of being tonight's host for this session entitled Staying Well, the Importance of Your Students' Self-Wellness. Now, I know that we are in week 10, finals week is on the corner, so what is really important for us to dive into is students' wellness, how the university supports their wellness, but also how family members can also play a part in supporting the wellness of students, and ensuring that students are kind of taking care of themselves amongst all the other things they're accomplishing while they're here at UC San Diego. So I am joined by two wonderful panelists who will be diving in deep to everything that we can offer for supporting the student self-wellness here on campus, which is Dr. Tiffany O'Meara and Jay Taylor from UC San Diego Student Health and Wellbeing.
All right. Hello and welcome, parents and families. My name is Dr. Tiffany O'Meara. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm a psychologist at Counseling and Psychological Services, otherwise known as CAPS. I've been here for about 21 years at UC San Diego, and my position at CAPS is of the director of our outreach services. And I'm really excited to be here with you all. And I'm presenting today with Jay Taylor.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dan Margot. I'm Jay Taylor, like Tiffany said. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a health educator with Health Promotion Services. So today we're going to talk about how to support students' well-being when you're not there, how to support your students' well-being from afar. We're going to share resources and talk about some skills to have conversations. And we will be talking about health promotion services and counseling and psychological services, which are two out of the three pillars of what we call the cluster, which includes student health and well-being, kind of medical facility where students can get their prescriptions, optometry, pharmacy, primary care, lots of good stuff there. And then, of course, HPS and CAP. So Tiffany and myself. Slide.
All right. So although we don't have time for deep introductions with such a large group and being on a webinar, we would still like to know a little bit about you all. So let's get a sense of where folks are from with this poll. So if you would mind sharing, where is it that you are from? Thank you for putting in your response. And just in a moment here, we're giving time for folks to select their response, and then we'll share some of the results with you. And on your screen, you can actually click on your response there in the poll. And Dan will share those results with us. Let's take a look here. So, wow, we ended up getting someone in each of the categories there. So it looks like it's tied here for San Diego and Northern California, and that's pretty typical. We have a lot of native San Diegans that come to UC San Diego, but we also have a lot of students from Northern California. I think that's about as far away as you can be from home, but still staying in state. And then it looks like we've got a big range, a lot from the LA area. Well, that was very close, a lot from the LA area. One person from Central California, a few from Orange County, Inland Empire, and then quite a few from out of state. Yeah, if you look in the chat, you can see where folks are coming from here, all across the country. And then even in another country, from India. Wow, wonderful. So thank you for being here with us tonight.
So we just want to take some time to acknowledge that there's so much going on in the world right now. And your student is going through so much, or will be going through so much as they transition to college. They're learning how to be on their own for the first time, navigating college courses, having professors and not teachers, an enormous campus, making new friends, all of that, in the midst of so many global stressors. So just acknowledging that it's not just school that students are sometimes overwhelmed by, it's everything going on in the world. Slide. So that's the tough stuff, right? All this stress in different ways, but we have a lot for students to have outlets and connect with other people to, again, regain their wellness or support their continuing wellness. So we have something called the Zone, which is located in Price Center. And if you'll hear more and more about that's kind of like an anchor on campus. There's different student organizations that have offices there, lots of places to eat. And then the Zone is our well-being lounge. We have programming like 10 to 6, Monday through Friday. There's a lot of de-stress activities like arts and crafts. We have our therapy fluffies, which are our therapy dogs that come to campus about once a week, and they're kind of like local celebrities. Students just love to be able to connect with an animal and something really different on campus. Recently, there was a healthy cookie demo and super popular. Students can learn how to make an affordable, nutritious, and easy meal. And the dietitians from Student Health come over and teach that. And of course, students get to have that snack. Those are a couple times a month. And lots of other things going on. It's a really low pressure way for students to meet others, build community, start to work on their wellness and connect. So that's the Zone. Next slide. And then we have health coaching. So health coaching is a non-clinical, non-medical one-on-one service working with certified health coaches. So myself, I'm a certified health coach and we have 2 others. We all kind of have our different specialties, but we can address different wellness topics like sleep hygiene, stress management, exercise. It's a really good resource for students who want to make some type of change related to their wellness, but they're not sure where to start or how to start. It's also helpful for students to have some accountability, right? To check in and have that partner. And it's really not about giving advice or telling students another thing that they need to be doing or should be doing, but really the spirit of knowing that students have the wisdom within themselves and helping to guide them to make those sustainable lifestyle changes. Next. Okay, and then we have Tritons in Recovery. Tritons in Recovery is a student organization, part of our collegiate recovery program. And this is for folks who are in or seeking recovery from behavioral addiction. So it could be substance use, could be something else. It's a great place to get connected to resources, to find different support meetings, mutual help meetings, and of course, connect and do fun, sober social activities. So this is really crucial for students who may be feeling like they're the only person going through this. And we know that social support is so key to recovery. So connecting with other people that have their same experience, and to build recovery into the college environment, which sometimes is not as conducive. Oh, next slide.
All right, so now I'm going to be speaking about Counseling and Psychological Services, CAPS. So most students on campus know that CAPS provides individual counseling, but I'm going to talk today about some of the services that your student may not know about and that you may not know about. So in addition to one-on-one counseling, we also provide group counseling. Group counseling can be a really helpful treatment for a lot of problems that students are coming in for. And a lot of students don't think about attending group counseling, but the ones that do really find it helpful. I run 4 therapy groups a week, and I have really good retention rate of students staying in the group throughout the entire quarter. So group therapy is nice because it's offered once a week. They get to talk with a therapist, but then they also get to talk with students that are experiencing something that's very similar. And so we have a number of groups. We offer a group for taming anxiety, building social confidence, which is for students with social anxiety. We also have a group for body image and also DBT skills for students with eating disorders. And then this spring, we're going to be piloting a new group, which is a social skills group for students on the autism spectrum. So those are some of our therapy groups that we offer. We also offer psychiatry evaluations and medication management. And all of our services are free and confidential for UC San Diego students. As long as they paid their student registration fees, they get free services. There is our phone number and our website. And I believe that at the end of the presentation, you're all going to be provided with information about where you can get all of these resources that we're sharing in the chat. So next slide. These are a list of some of the common reasons why students come in to see us at the counseling center. So while we do see students that come in for major mental health conditions, we also see students for things like stress, anxiety, loneliness, homesickness, relationship problems. These are some of the top reasons why students come in. And so, students may not think about coming into counseling for things like this. And that's where it can help for parents to say, why don't you consider going and talking with somebody? So these are some of the reasons why students come in. Next slide. We also have crisis services. So for students that do not feel like they can wait for an appointment, if they're experiencing a crisis, they can always call or walk into the counseling center. So our office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4. If they're experiencing a crisis, if they can come in earlier in the day, that's usually better. They don't have to wait as long to be seen, but really we'll talk to a student 24/7. They call that CAPS phone number there. And if it's after hours, they press option 2 to speak to an after hours counselor. We not only talk with students about concerns for themselves, but if they have a concern for a friend, they can also give us a call and talk with us about that. And you are also welcome to give us a call if you have concern for your child. And so we're happy to consult with parents. If the student signs a release and they've been in to see us, then we can freely speak with you about your student. but if they have not signed a release, we can still collect information from you, and we can also provide you some suggestions and help get you connected to other resources on campus that might be helpful for your student. Next slide. All right, besides our clinical services, we also have a lot of really wonderful preventative services, services that are focused on increasing well-being. So I wanted to share some of these with you. These are all part of our Triton's Flourish initiative. The first are our Rise Together workshops, and our Rise workshops are based on, they're data driven. So we've looked at the top reasons why students come into CAPS, and we've designed our program to meet those needs, to meet the reasons why students are coming in for counseling. We look at the field of positive psychology along with the field of performance psychology, which is also known as sports psychology, and also take a look at mind-body sciences. And we've put together a number of really wonderful, engaging workshops that students can come to Monday through Friday, every single day of the quarter, which is really incredible. I'll talk with people at other counseling centers at other colleges, and they can't believe that we offer a workshop every single day of the quarter. And these are completely free for students. They can meet with a CAPS therapist, they meet with other students, and they don't have to be a CAPS client. Anybody can go to any of these offerings. Next slide. We also hear of a lot of students that are feeling lonely or disconnected, and so we've created community forums. These are identity-based or experience-based spaces where students can meet with other students that share similar experiences, similar identities, and often the therapist that runs these community forums also shares those experiences or identities. And so this can be a great way for students to come together, build community, be part of a group where they feel like they have some connection, and talk about relevant issues of the day. Next slide. Let's Talk is also something that we offer Monday through Friday. These are more informal consultations where students, if they just want to talk about one issue, I want to talk about time management, stress management. I have a specific relationship issue I'd like to run by you. This is a great way to be able to informally speak with a therapist. There's virtually no wait at all for these programs. And so we have a really diverse group of staff that offer these Monday through Friday, a diverse group of staff with different identities, different specialty areas. And so you can check out that link and see who our providers are, and students sign up. And it's also a great way for them to kind of get their feet wet. Like, what is it like to meet with a therapist? And they can even ask them a question like, I'm not sure if counseling is right for me, or what is counseling like? Could medication maybe be helpful for me? So if they're uncertain about counseling, but they're wanting to find out what it's like, this is another great way for them to connect with a therapist. So we're just really thinking about what are ways to increase access to these mental health resources for students. Next slide. And then finally, we have our iFlourish program, which is a number of tech offerings. And our most popular offering is Headspace. So Headspace is the popular mindfulness app. You may have heard of it. Well, CAPS has paid for this for all of our UC San Diego students. So you do not have to be a CAPS client. You go to this website, you sign up, you'll get the most upgraded version of Headspace. So this is not your free for student version. This is the most upgraded version. They have mindful meditations that will help students with sleep, relaxation, and even exercises to help them focus and prep for exams. All right, next slide.
So many great resources at CAPS. Thanks, Tiffany, for sharing those. Beyond the cluster, right, which is health promotion, student health, CAPS, there's so much on campus for students. You'll hear over and over again in this presentation that we talk about connection and community. That's a huge part of wellness. So there are several different community resource centers based on, again, that shared identity, like Black Resource Center, like LGBT Resource Center. Those are great places for students to make connections, build community, like we say. There's events at each college. There's events at Six College, Muir College, Warren, all of them have their own events and newsletters that students are able to access. Makes it feel a little bit smaller. And then Center for Student Involvement. It's all the different clubs and organizations, from fraternity sorority life to, roller skating club. There's something for everyone. And then we have recreation services. A lot of times they will partner with CAPS, like Tiffany mentioned with the Joyful Movement series, and create different programs that allow for students to join fitness at different levels, right? We talk about anxiety and nervousness and loneliness, and that can be, going to the gym can be an intimidating experience. So REC is really great at creating different levels of entry point. And then the hub, I want to talk about this. This is a basic needs resource center that supports students with housing, with food. There's a Triton food pantry on campus. I walked by it the other day. There was a line around the corner, so students use that all the time. And they also teach students about financial literacy. So great for the rest of their lives. There's so much more. So we'll talk in a little bit about how to encourage resources, your student to access those resources, and how to make a gentle referral, but keeping in mind it may not be CAPS. It may be something larger out in the community, out in campus. Next slide.
All right, so time for another poll. So after listening to some of those resources, just want you to reflect here and tell us, what is one of the resources that we talked about that you may consider recommending to your student? Dan is collecting those responses. So you just click on your screen there and share what one resource that you might recommend. All right, and here are the results. All right, again, a great diversity here of different resources speaking to different parents here. This is wonderful. Great. It looks like many of you are considering counseling to recommend, which is really wonderful. And I think that really shows how much the stigma of counseling is decreasing. So that's really wonderful to see. And a lot for health coaching as well. I think that can be a great way to get students started talking about those well-being goals. All right, thank you very much. All right, so for the next section, I'd like to talk about, I was thinking about what are some of the top ways that I'll work with students in increasing their well-being. And I'd like to share with you 5 of the tips that I share with students. So when students come in and they're feeling depressed, they're feeling anxious or stressed out, and I try to work with them on, not just reducing those symptoms, but also enhancing their life, increasing their well-being. So anytime a student does come in and they're struggling in some way, kind of the well-being trifecta is, are you eating enough and eating healthy? Are you getting enough sleep? And are you moving enough or exercising? And so I'll talk with students about these 3 areas, because before I start moving on to other strategies, if any of these areas are really consistently not going well, that's going to spiral everything else out of control. And so we really will look at these areas and assess, how are you doing in each of these areas? And, maybe select one of the areas that they'd like to start in, and maybe select one goal out of one of these areas, and start with baby steps. Start in one direction and start trying to increase your well-being. And we see that when students do start to improve these areas, it does have an impact on other areas of their life, like their mood, for example. The second is pursuing an interest. And so, something in their life that is apart from academics, something that they do not have to be good at, something that they can just pursue because it's something that they have an interest in. So getting them to think about what that might be, something that is not too easy, but also not too difficult, something that they can really get in the moment and get away from all the other stressors and just kind of absorb themselves in. So when we find things in our life that we're engaged in, then that really helps to give us an increased sense of well-being. The third thing is developing and then also maintaining a routine. So when the pandemic hit, that was one thing that we saw really, students and their routines, kind of flew out the window. And that was something that students really struggled with. And so helping them to redevelop routines and maintain routines, that structure can really be helpful for students. And not just talking about, where is your time for study, but where is your time for sleep? Where is your time for well-being or hobbies or getting together socially? So helping them create a sustainable routine that they then can maintain. Fourth is being intentional about meaningful connection. So, I work a lot with students. One of the groups I run is the social confidence group, and I'll talk with them about how, having a social life and having friends, this is not something that just is going to come and hit you on the head. It's something that you really need to be intentional about. I want to go to class and make an effort to start one conversation with a student next to me, or I'm going to go to my professor's office hours and I'm going to think of 3 questions that I'd like to ask them. And so thinking about, how can you be intentional about taking some of those social risks? And then the connections that you do have, how can you be intentional about making those closer, getting to know them at a little bit of a deeper level? But if we're not intentional about it, it won't always happen on its own. So that's the 4th thing. And the 5th thing finally is focusing on what you can control. I'll talk a lot with students about focusing on action versus outcome. So those couple of examples I gave, I'm going to go to class and start one conversation. Whether or not that student responds to me and engages with me, that's going to be somewhat out of my control, but at least I'm going to go and take a risk to connect. Or going to my professor's office hours, I'm worried about what they're going to think about me. They're going to think that I'm stupid. That's going to be out of your control, but what's in your control is at least coming up with 3 concrete questions that you can go ask. And so that's another thing, is focusing on what's in our control and trying to let go of what's out of our control. All right, next slide. And then this next slide, I want to spend a little bit of time on, because these are things that parents can do, or ways that parents can support their child and their well-being while they're away from home. So the first thing is stay in touch. So regular communication can really help students reduce any feelings of homesickness or loneliness that they might be experiencing. But I suggest that you ask them, how much would they like to be in contact? When would be a good time for us to check in? How would you like to be connected? So is that email, phone calls, video chats, texts, messaging? Each child is going to be different. For some students, they may want to be in touch daily, whereas other students, maybe they want to be in touch once a week. And so allow them to set the pace. Some students prefer text versus phone calls, because then they can get back to you when the time is best for them. Or you can say, well, I really prefer talking. When would be a good time? Maybe we're going to decide on a day and a time to talk. So that can be helpful. Other ways to stay in touch, you may consider sending a letter in the mail. It's so rare to get physical cards these days, so that might be something that you consider. Or if you're able to, send a care package, maybe with snacks or things from home that they can't get here, and send enough that they can share it with the other students in their dorm. Or sending pictures of pets. These are some other ways to stay in touch. There was one parent that I knew that she was really upset that her son was not staying in contact with her as much as he did when he was at home. And so she decided to write him a letter. And she said, I'm concerned because we used to be very close, but now we don't talk anymore. And I'm really concerned about your well-being. So I'm going to send you a check here for $100. And I want you to really do something good for yourself. And she sent the letter and then sent it without the check. So she got a call right away. So that is one strategy that one parent used, a creative strategy to stay in touch. The second thing is encouraging self-care. So just these things that we're talking about, encourage your student to prioritize the self-care activities that we've been talking about, like exercise, healthy eating, getting enough sleep. And you may consider making a specific suggestion and providing resources for those activities like yoga or meditation, and then where on campus they might be able to find those activities. But remember that your idea of what sounds like fun might not be something that they are interested in. So Jay is going to be talking soon about how you can ask them about, what they might be interested in. The next is provide emotional support. So college, of course, can be a really stressful time. So it's really important to offer emotional support when your student needs it. Listen to them when they want to talk and validate their feelings as natural and reassure them that they're not alone in what they're feeling. And remember that often the student just wants to talk and vent and get it out. They're often not looking for problem solving. They just want to feel heard and understood. So even just saying something like, gosh, that sounds really hard. I'm sorry that you're struggling with this right now. Sometimes just that can be really helpful for them. And you get off the phone and they feel a lot better. And then meanwhile, you're having to sit with that anxiety. So also remember your own self-care as well. Take time for yourself as you're supporting your child and get your own support during this process as well. And also remember, before just jumping in and providing advice, perhaps ask them what their thoughts are about how to approach this problem. And remember that our job as parents is to help them to be independent. So similar to how we had to watch them fall when they were learning how to walk, we can assist them in problem solving, but try not to solve it for them, and just really encourage them and tell them that, you believe in their ability to work it out. And then the fourth thing is encourage involvement. So encourage them to get involved on campus by joining clubs or student orgs that fit with their interests. This can really help them develop a sense of community and connection on campus. So the other thing is encourage them to move beyond texting and social media. So, get on the phone, have video chats with friends from back home. And remind them that making those social connections are a big part of college life. So close relationships, research has found, actually helps students with their academics. And we think that it's because it really does help to reduce loneliness and provide that important social support. A lot of students on other campuses that I've worked at, I tried to get them to study, but here on this campus, I tried to get them to socialize. So that's why it can be important to continue to encourage that. Finally, referring to resources. So if you notice that your student is struggling with their mental health, encourage them to seek mental health professional counseling on campus and offer to help them find those resources and support. But it can be really helpful for parents, for students to hear from parents, hey, I think that, counseling might be something that you consider. And a lot of times you're planting seeds. So maybe they won't go right away, but if they start to hear that from a few different places that counseling could be helpful, then they may start to consider that. All right, next slide.
Great. So some of this will be just adding to what Tiffany, you mentioned here, but some concrete examples. And I encourage you all to embrace the spirit of curiosity, because it's just about learning about your student's life, which is what y'all want, is what's happening, what are they doing, how are they feeling, and all of that. So to be curious. So here are a few examples. So instead of asking, have you made any friends, which of course we talked about connection, community multiple times, asking who they love to spend time with. So this is a way to change a close-ended question to an open-ended question. a close-ended question can be answered with yes or no, and it really stops a conversation. Have you made any friends? Yes. Right. But asking them to kind of expand and elaborate, who do you love spending time with them? It's also going to be insight into their lives. Maybe it's someone they do crafts with at the zone, or the rec instructor in their Zumba class. You never know, but asking that question. And it also takes time to make friendships, right? As Tiffany mentioned, to be intentional. So maybe they don't have close lifelong friends, but being curious and finding out who it is that they enjoy being around. And then this one, right? We talked about self-care and sleep, eating, and getting enough rest, and all these things. Right? It's a lot. So we don't want to add additional demands. We want to just, again, ask curiously, what does self-care look like for you? And see what they say, and to then encourage that and amplify what they already are doing. And maybe some of those questions can come later, or encouragements can come later, but to lead, let them lead. And then this one, of course, when we think about college, parents want to ask about substances, and sometimes they want to be sure that their students are not doing something. But as Tiffany mentioned, this campus, it is rigorous. Students don't have a lot of free time, and substance use is not rampant on our campus. And of course, that's a concern that the parents have. But instead of asking if they're not doing something, be curious of how they do like to spend their time on the weekends. And again, that illuminates so much more than just, are you being safe, not drinking? Yes, I'm being safe. No, I'm not drinking. But what do your weekends look like? And encourage them to explore. We have a beautiful campus, but an even more beautiful city and beaches, and so many other things to do. So to encourage them to get out. And Tiffany mentioned the piece about office hours is so important, to connect with professors, get those letter recommendations. And that's intimidating for students. Instead of asking, did you do something, right? Again, another demand, asking them to tell you about their favorite professor, or maybe it's a TA. Again, opening that door, and then maybe that conversation could lead into, you should stop by their office hours. I bet they'd love to hear from you. And then in terms of making a gentle referral, not another demand, I bet a lot of parents and other mentors would encourage counseling, especially for those who are noticeably not taking care of themselves. Maybe you see a change in your student's weight or energy or mood, right? And that can be frightening. But offering those validation statements, and that you acknowledge what they're going through, that it's tough, ask what support would look like for them. Maybe it's like, it would really help if we talked, more than once a week. Maybe they want to change that initial communication contract y'all made. And then asking what they think of the different resources. I went to this webinar and I heard about Headspace. What do you think about that? Have you used that? So the spirit of curiosity, letting them lead and letting them share with you about their life here. Next slide.
Well, thank you both for sharing, I know, a ton of very useful, very thoughtful, and very helpful information. We have questions, because of course we do, from families participating tonight. So I'm going to throw them out. Either of you want to take a shot at answering it, just go for it. Our first question from a family member is about CAPS therapy sessions, asking about, is the limit per CAPS therapy session set to 8 sessions per quarter, or is it 8 for the academic year? And then also, is the 8 sessions per therapist or per type of therapy being received?
All right, so great question. CAPS provides short-term treatment, And so we're able to help students that have a problem or concern that can be helped within a certain number of sessions. And so because we have so many students that we want to serve, we need to cap it at some point. So we do cap it at 8 sessions a year. And students aren't seen on a weekly basis. And so, you're seen and then you're often given homework or something to work on. And then we see you in another few weeks and check in. So that 8 sessions can actually last for quite some time. It's not that it goes by in a couple of months. And the truth is that a lot of students are helped with just coming in for a couple of sessions, not even using all of those 8 sessions. When a student needs more regular care, then that's when we will help students use their insurance, whether that's the studentship insurance or their private insurance. And we provide that personal assistance with helping them navigate that insurance to get connected with a provider off campus that they might be able to see more regularly. But some students have, like I've seen some students for, 5, 6 sessions, and then they're feeling better, and then they go away, and then the next year they come back and I meet with them again for a few sessions. And so sometimes I'm able to meet with students the entire time that they're here on campus, but they just are coming in kind of, we call it short-term intermittent. So they'd be seen for a few sessions, they go away, they're feeling better, they come back in for a few sessions. And it's typically with one therapist. So, but if there's ever a therapist that's not a good match, they certainly can call the front desk and ask to switch a therapist, but you can't just do 8 sessions with one therapist, then 8 sessions with the next. It is 8 sessions per year.
Thank you so much for that answer.
Sure.
Okay, our next question is, when my student is anxious about things, he does not reach out to the CAPS department. I listened to a CAPS webinar last summer and referred him to this resource. But how can I help him reach out to CAPS voluntarily? How often do the CAPS department or health promotion services reach out to students with communication about the resources available?
All right,
Kind of a
wonderful.
two-folder there.
Yeah, sure. So that's always difficult when you can see that something like counseling might be helpful for your student, but that they're not really wanting to take that or follow through with that. I think that, I talked earlier about having them problem solve. If it can help to make it a little bit easier, for example, you might send the direct contact information in an email to them or a text message. Hey, here's the phone number. These are the hours that they're open. I would suggest that you consider making a call, or, another great resource I think is the Let's Talk resource, because it's less of a commitment, and also they can get in like next day. So, hey, would you consider taking a look at this list and going in and just asking questions about whether or not counseling would be helpful for you? So Let's Talk might be an easier way to get them in, to at least talk with somebody. The other thing is that maybe they don't want to come to counseling, but maybe they want to check out one of the workshops. So maybe taking a look at the list of workshops and maybe recommending a specific one that they might find of interest. But a lot of the times, as parents, we're giving them suggestions, but they won't always take that. And I like to try to focus on what we're observing. Like, I noticed that your anxiety level seems high. I noticed that you're, reporting that you're feeling stressed, that I see that you're spending a lot of time in bed, or that you're not having the academic performance that you're wanting. You can talk on those specific behaviors you're concerned about, and then follow that up with, I wonder if you would consider talking with someone. I find something like that really helpful for myself. I think that perhaps you might find that helpful as well. So, asking if they would consider that, what might be the first step towards that. So, but sometimes you are planting seeds, and sometimes they won't jump on that suggestion right away, but over time, they may take that suggestion. You can also reach out to us if you do have concerns about your student, and we can talk with you about that as well. We don't reach out to students unless there's some kind of an emergency, but we don't typically reach out to students. We do require that students reach out to us. to schedule appointments.
Great answer again. Okay, I'm going to try and get through these as quickly as possible. If my student has experienced anxiety and semi-panic attacks, where's the best place to start?
All right. So I want to give a little plug for my Taming Anxiety group. So I run a Taming Anxiety group. It's a cognitive behavioral therapy group. I take 10 students a quarter, and then those same group of students meet every single week. Students may not think that a group therapy sounds like something that they might want to do, but one thing I'll say to students is, you may not have considered this, but students that actually go report that they find it really helpful. In fact, at the end of the quarter, what students say is sometimes the most helpful thing about the group was just hearing that they're not alone and meeting other students that are also struggling with anxiety. But we, every single week of the quarter, they're learning some kind of a strategy to use to manage that anxiety. So they're learning thought records, deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, grounding activities, self-compassion exercises. We also learn how to cope with panic attacks, how to improve your sleep, how to reduce procrastination. Anxiety is the #1 reason why students come into CAPS. And so instead of individually serving all those students, I meet with 10 students at once, and we go over a different strategy every week. It's really incredible versus waiting once every few weeks to talk to a therapist. You get a chance to meet every single week and get that support. And then what's cool is that after you've done one therapy group, you're invited to continue in therapy groups. I have some students that I see weekly, every single quarter for years while they're here at UC San Diego. So group is kind of a little gold mine here that people don't know about. So for anxiety specifically, I recommend the Taming Anxiety group. But the workshops, the RISE workshops, also work to reduce anxiety. The stress management one in particular is a great one. So if they don't want to commit to a therapy group, those workshops can be another great place to start. And then the typical time frame for appointments.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, what does the time frame to getting an appointment look like for students through CAPS?
So it's really improved. We've done a great job at bringing on additional staff. So over the last few years, you may have heard students say that we have a really long wait, but it's gotten so much better. I don't know what it is right now, but midwinter quarter, we had telephone assessments the next week and our first in-person appointment available a couple of weeks. And that's really wonderful for a first-time appointment. And so I'm not exactly sure what it is. During certain parts of the quarter, the wait can get a little bit longer depending on where holidays fall. And sometimes we get busier during certain times of the quarter. But always, if it's urgent, a student can be seen immediately.
And to follow up, do students have to pay for services provided through CAPS? Let's say if they have UC SHIP, the University Health Insurance Program, or if they have their own private insurance program, is there a payment or copay required?
What's really cool is that they've already paid for it. So they pay for CAPS services through their student services fees. And so they get all CAPS services for free. If we need to refer them off campus for more regular counseling, then that's when they utilize either their SHIP insurance or their private insurance. But all CAPS services are completely free.
Okay, this is the final question we're going to have time for tonight. If your question did not get answered, please email parents@ucsd.edu and we'll ensure that we can get an answer to your question. But we've talked about a lot of resources, a lot of things that are available for students to seek out, spend their time doing, but lots of students on campus already have jam-packed schedules. So how can families approach recommending students take something on that's going to take up a bit more of their time, even if it's for their own benefit, if it seems like they don't have any time to spare?
Jay, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. That is so common on this campus. Students are booked, right? And it's like schedule, and then wellness is sometimes on the back burner. But as Tiffany mentioned, to emphasize that taking time for wellness is going to help with their productivity, their performance, right? And so those things aren't separate. So I would encourage, to emphasize that. So to not, fit it in only on your breaks or only on weekends, but, even a 5-minute deep breathing exercise, or something that they could find on Headspace, right? Something 5-10 minutes, that can be really impactful. So not for students to think of this big chunk of time, it needs to be an hour, it needs to be every day, but just encourage these little moments of wellness. And even things like Tiffany said about saying hi to someone in their class. There's so many very simple, a 15-minute walk. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. So thinking of brainstorming different ways and asking them what makes you feel re-energized, or what makes you, feel calmer. And it's probably not saying, spending something that's an hour and a half doing this. But yeah, 5 to 15 minutes, so many things.
No, I think that's also great advice, because I do the same thing for my own schedule as a professional. I'm putting in little things on my calendar just to remind me to get up, take a walk, or do things, because it's funny how life never stops coming once it really starts. And if you're not looking out for your own wellness, it's you have to be very fortunate when others, like everyone who's joined this session tonight, is already doing and looking out for their students' wellness. Well, Jay, Tiffany, thank you so much for sharing this information, for spending time with us, to sharing your expertise. We truly appreciate it. And I know we have covered a ton of information tonight, and I know there's been so many links throughout the chat. So everyone who's still with us, don't worry, because all the resources are here in one place, and the PowerPoint presentation deck will be emailed out to all registrants tomorrow, so you'll have access. So in case you miss one, or you forget, or you want to dive into some additional readings that Tiffany and Jay have provided, you can. Okay, and before we let you go, pardon me, if you'd like to rewatch this session or share it with a family member who would like to rewatch it with translated subtitles, you can do so once it's posted on our YouTube channel by selecting the settings, subtitles, and choosing the auto translate feature and picking whichever language you would like to rewatch this session in. Also, if you would like to get engaged with campus, specifically our office, we invite all family members of undergraduate students to sign up to be a Trying Parent Family Ambassador, which you can do on our website. We are always accepting new signups. And finally, thank you so much for attending this session for the Trying Family web series. Pardon me, and this entire quarter of sessions, and really making Trying Family web series something that may have started when we were all split up and not in person, and making it so meaningful and impactful and engaging that we continue to do it about 3 years later. And we're reaching hundreds and thousands of family members throughout this program. So thank you so much for continuing to come and attend these events in support of your students' wellness, success, and really ensuring that they are being as successful as they can here on campus. So with that, please stay engaged with our office through our social media networks, our website, our email address, and our helpline phone number that is listed on the screen. And again, thank you to our panelists. Thank you to the staff on the back end helping to answer questions. And thank you all for attending the final Trying Family web series session for 2023.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night.